Let's say you find 500 donors and they each give you $100. That's $50,000. Sounds great, right? But here's the kicker. According to national averages, 55 to 60% of those donors will never donate to your cause again. So next year, you're left with only 200 returning donors unless you hustle pretty hard to replace the rest. And then over 3 years, if you don't replace lost donors, your revenue could shrink to $20,000 and then $8,000, assuming they're all giving the same. And you're stuck constantly chasing new donors just to stay afloat. So how can you keep donors coming back to support your awesome cause? Well, it all comes down to donor stewardship. In other words, how you deepen and maintain your relationship with donors after they make that first donation. In our 11th video of our Changemaker Cafe Fundraising 101 series, I'll show you how to create a donor stewardship strategy that helps you inspire your donors to keep giving consistently year after year, so your organization can spend less time trying to attract supporters and more time focusing on your mission. As always, you can download our fundraising series action guide at changemakercafe.com. And thank you to Click and Pledge for sponsoring this series. Ready? Let's get curious. We live in an instant gratification society. I don't need to tell you that. So one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my own social impact work is that most of the time, big community changes require hard work over many years. It really sucks. Why can't we just end homelessness and hunger already? But I get it. Working to change hearts and minds, update systems, and improve the lives of possibly hundreds or thousands or millions of people takes time. And it also takes consistent resources, not just for 1 month or year, but for enough time to actually meaningfully address the community challenges that we're trying to address. That's why having a strong donor stewardship strategy for your cause is super important. Strong donor stewardship can be the difference between getting support one time and one time only and getting consistent funding month after month or year after year as you do your critical work. Why aren't people coming back to give again? Well, donor psychology tells us that donors, just like other change makers, want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. They want to feel, in a sense, like a partner to your work, not just like an ATM that you go to once a year to try to get money out, you know? So when you can help donors feel like they're truly part of your mission and journey through solid donor stewardship, then you can boost that donor retention rate. In other words, the percent of donors who come back and donate again next year. But how do you do that? You need a plan, a donor stewardship plan. A donor stewardship plan is a written engagement strategy that helps you keep track of when and how you're going to communicate with donors after they make their first donation. So it usually takes the form of a document, a spreadsheet, or even a calendar you share with your board of directors, your team, or your fundraising volunteers to help everyone work together on this. The plan typically includes things like donor segments or tiers, usually based on how much someone gave, the person on your team responsible for communicating with that donor, and then the type of touch point or communication that the donor will receive from your organization and by when. The idea here is that you want to provide your donors with multiple touch points throughout the year so they don't only hear from your nonprofit next time you're hoping for a donation. If you don't have a donor stewardship plan yet, or you need to update yours, where do you begin? Let's take a few moments to talk through some of those steps. The first thing you need to do is segment your donors with as much information as you have about them, starting with the type of donation that they have given to you in the past. Now, in our last video, we talked about how it's important to make sure that our organization's contact list is up to date with accurate contact information so that we can categorize our contacts by type and tailor our communications for them based on their involvement with our organization. So segmenting your donors is like the next level of that. In your contacts list, maybe you have contacts tagged as volunteers or event attendees. Well, when you segment your donors, you'll be categorizing them based on where they are specifically in their giving journey with your cause. For example, you might have non-donors, people in your contacts list who haven't donated yet at all, but might someday. You might have new or first-time donors. You might have monthly donors, people who give on a monthly, usually automated basis like a subscription service. You could have repeat annual donors who have come back and donated more than 1 year in a row. You might also have major donors who have given very large donations to your organization. You might have others too. It's all based on your unique situation. Well, why do we do this? Because each type of donor may need different types of communications from you in order to cultivate or deepen your relationship. And the more you personalize that communication, the more effective it's going to be. For example, let's say you want to send a new donor a special welcome package, thanking them for beginning their journey with you. Your repeat donors might not need that. Or maybe your team might be too small to have the bandwidth to give every donor a personal or private tour of your space, so you reserve that activity just for your top donors. The next thing you want to do is define what kinds of communication or touch points your team can keep up with throughout the year to cultivate relationships with your donors. Now, as we said earlier, the idea here is to provide your donors with multiple touch points throughout the year, so they don't only hear from your nonprofit next time you're hoping for a donation. That said, every organization is different, and it's important to find a cadence for communicating with your donors that you and your team can actually keep up with. So I recommend brainstorming with your fellow team members and board members to come up with a list of these touch points that's actually going to work for your organization and your situation. Examples of touch points might include things like sending a thank you note within 24 or 48 hours of that person's first donation, making sure that you're sharing volunteer opportunities with them within 2 weeks of their first donation, acknowledging their birthday with a nice email or card, inviting them for a tour of your operation, sending them a personalized video, or sharing an impact report so that you can showcase the impacts of their donations so far. These things ideally won't cost much time or money, but they offer connection points with your supporters so that they know that their contributions matter. To make sure you're connecting with your donors in an engaging way, you need a fundraising platform that can help you with donor outreach, like the amazing sponsor of our Fundraising 101 series, Click and Pledge. Click and Pledge is a comprehensive fundraising platform for nonprofits ready to raise money and really grow their impact. But it does a lot more than just collect donations. Their platform starts you out with customizable donation forms to collect donations, but it can do a lot more too, like help collect funds at in-person fundraising events, do text-to-give campaigns, run peer-to-peer fundraising that allows supporters to form teams and raise money from their networks, inspire donors with videos that collect donations right inside the video, integrations with Salesforce and other platforms, and donor outreach tools. This is really key here for what we're talking about. This helps you record personalized thank you messages and streamline your donor touch points that we've been talking about here for stewardship right inside your fundraising platform. Some platforms charge more based on your organization's size, but for Click and Pledge, the pricing stays the same even as your donor list increases. And there are no contracts, and all of their solutions are included at no additional cost. You can learn more about Click and Pledge's fundraising solutions and get your first month free. Just get in contact with their team to ask questions or schedule a demo, or you can even sign up to give it a try right now. The links for doing both of those things are below this video. All right, so once you've defined your touch points, the next step is to set a communication schedule. In other words, when do each of the touch points occur? Again, this is all about finding a balance. I can't stress this enough. A balance between acknowledging your donors quickly and the capacity of your team, thinking through questions like, how quickly can you realistically thank a donor for their donation? How often can you send a video update or impact report? You get the idea here. I recommend outlining a timeline of donor touchpoints for the year, like you saw on our example here. A quick tip, as you're thinking through your timeline, make sure you're including just because check-ins. Communication opportunities where you're not asking for anything, you're just saying hello, because hey, that's what humans should do. Now it is time to delegate. There's no need for you or just one person on your team to do all of this donor stewardship. In fact, introducing your donors to various people on your team throughout the year can help them feel even more connected to your cause. Plus, I'm all about spreading the workout and preventing changemaker burnout here on this channel. So sit down with the others working with you to support your cause and figure out what you can do on your donor stewardship plan. A couple of things that you and your team want to think through include who is responsible for each task. Is it your founder, your CEO, your board chair, a specific staff person? And then once you've segmented your donor types and defined your donor stewardship touch points and figured out a realistic communication schedule and delegated who will do what, it's time to put your stewardship plan to the test. I recommend you try it out for several months. This is important. And then also collect feedback. Donors often love to give feedback or make suggestions when you ask with an open heart. So maybe try a donor survey once a year to learn about their interests and communication preferences, and then you can adjust your donor stewardship plan as you go. For example, maybe you discover that your donors loved it when you tried a personalized update video, but they didn't really care so much when they saw your impact report with all those numbers in it. In that scenario, that means you could maybe focus more on videos and spend less time on impact reports, right? This kind of feedback is gold. In our next video in our Fundraising 101 series, we're going to talk about how to use social media effectively to build a community of supporters and donors. So be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already so you don't miss it. And of course, all the other videos in our series. I'll see you next time for the next episode of Changemaker Cafe.